Welcome to Die Later by Chetan Bhagat, which is basically aimed at making Indians live longer, happier, healthier, and using modern science as well as our ancient wisdom. Sleep is the most important. It's not just for you, it's for your parents as well. 8 घंटे की sleep है, आप 2 घंटे में नहीं कर सकते वो पूरा काम. People age and die. आप नहीं हो Prime Minister. Alcohol is not good for sleep. Welcome to Die Later by Chetan Bhagat, the podcast where we use modern science and ancient wisdom to help Indians live longer, happier, and healthy. हेलो एंड वेलकम टू डाई लेटर बाय चेतन भगत. स्वागत है आप सबका दोस्तों. दिस इज एपिसोड 1 ऑन डाई लेटर, माय न्यू पॉडकास्ट विच इज बेसिकली एम्ड एट मेकिंग इंडियंस लिव लॉन्गर, हैप्पियर, हेल्दियर एंड यूजिंग मॉडर्न साइंस एज वेल एज आवर एंशिएंट विजडम. यू नो, इफ I had to start the first episode, I just wanted to come up with the one thing that matters the most for a long life. No, it's not a medicine. No, it's not some procedure. It's not some diet. It's the number one thing and it's mostly free in life. So this episode is dedicated to one of the most important things in life, sleep. जी हाँ, नींद के ऊपर ये episode है because if you want a long life, sleep is the most important medicine you can have to have a long life. And unfortunately, so many of the people I know do not sleep well. You know, Indians are quite terrible at sleep. मैं काफ़ी talks पे जाता हूँ and I often find that I ask the audience, how many of you sleep properly? And you know, 40% of people on an average raise their hands. 60% of people in India, I think, don't get good sleep. That's my rough anecdotal data. But you ask yourself, do you sleep properly? और अगर आप अच्छे से नहीं सो रहे हो, you are compromising a lot in your life. It's not just कि थके थके रहते हो या काम में एनर्जी नहीं है या आई विश आई कुड स्लीप मोर. यू आर एक्चुअली रिड्यूसिंग योर लाइफ. वी विल लर्न ऑल दैट इन दिस एपिसोड. यू आर एक्चुअली इंक्रीजेज योर चांसेस ऑफ मैनी डिजीजेज एंड अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग इन योर स्लीप. तो उसके बारे में आज हम बात करेंगे. ठीक है, इंडिया में क्या हो रहा होता है, वॉट आर द थिंग्स दैट अफेक्ट स्लीप. यू नो, लेट नाइट नेटफ्लिक्स हो रहा है, मे बी यूट्यूब हो रहा है. होपफुली दिस एपिसोड यू नॉट वॉचिंग इट वेरी लेट एट नाइट. लेट नाइट पे व्हाट्सएप के फॉरवर्ड आ रहे हैं, यूएस कॉल्स हो रहे हैं. अगर आप ऐसे ऑफिस में हैं जिनके यूएस के साथ कॉल्स होते हैं, कभी वेडिंग सीज़न हो रहा है, कभी फेस्टिवल सीज़न हो रहा है, क्रिकेट मैच का सीज़न हो रहा है. स्लीप सबसे पहली कैजुअलिटी होती है. स्लीप इज़ समथिंग दैट वी से, अरे कल सो लेंगे, चला आज आधा घंटा कम सो लेते हैं, 1 घंटा कम सो लेते हैं. इट्स एक्चुअली वेरी बैड फॉर यू, विच वी विल टॉक अबाउट टुडे. ठीक है, ये जो मेरा पॉडकास्ट है, इट रियली इज़ एम्ड एट मेकिंग पीपल लिव लॉन्गर and get healthier. It's not just for you, it's for your parents as well. Maybe it's more for your parents because they are older, right? So they need to take care of health even more, but even for you, abhi se अच्छी आदतें डाल लोगे, you will live a nice long healthy life. So ये जो मैं कह रहा हूँ कि sleep is important, or anything I say in that podcast is not going to be just my opinion. You know, it's not like मुझे लगता है sleep is important और उनको लगता है sleep is important. No, I am going to have a deep rooted scientific explanation for whatever I say here, but at the same time, here's what I'm going to do different in this episode, in all episodes of Die Later. I'm also going to bring in ancient wisdom. India is very old civilization and we have a lot of practices from the ancient wisdom. Not all are scientifically tested, but some practices today have found basis in science as well. वो वाली practices, वो वाली thoughts I would like to bring in कि हमारी साइंस क्या कहती है स्लीप के बारे में, मॉडर्न साइंस, और हमारा एंशिएंट विजडम क्या कहता है. एंड उसको हम अगर मिला लें तो व्हाट हाउ बेस्ट वी कैन यूज़ इट. वी डोंट हैव टू क्रिएट अ फाइट, राइट? साइंस ज़्यादा सही है या एंशिएंट विजडम ज़्यादा सही है? वाई शुड वी फाइट? वाई नॉट यूज़ बोथ? है ना, हमें तो ऑल द नॉलेज वी नीड, वी हैव टू नीड इट. सो टुडेज एपिसोड आई विल ब्रेक इट डाउन रफली इन 6 पार्ट्स. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई विल टॉक अबाउट स्लीप. वाई डू वी नीड स्लीप? स्लीप है क्या एंड वाई डू वी नीड इट? ओके, सबसे पहली बात, सोना ही क्यों है? वाई डू ह्यूमन बींग स्लीप लाइक ऑलमोस्ट 7-8 out of 24, which is like 1/3 of your life you sleep? Why is it there? Why is it so important? Then we'll get straight into the science. We'll talk into landmark sleep studies. Sleep के ऊपर बहुत रिसर्च हो चुकी है दुनिया में, लेकिन आई टॉक अबाउट द टॉप स्टडीज़ जो हुई हैं एंड आई एक्सप्लेन टू यू कि कैसे साइंस स्टडी करती है स्लीप. अगेन, इट इज़ नॉट जस्ट ओपिनियंस. साइंस में एक्चुअली मेजर किया जाता है कि स्लीप के साथ क्या होता है, स्लीप के बिना के साथ क्या होता है, कम स्लीप के साथ क्या होता है. तो वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग स्टडीज़ जो दुनिया में हुई हैं, आई विल शेयर विद यू basis of science. So next time someone asks you, you don't just have to say Chetan ne kaha tha. You can say actually I'm quoting this research from this science as well. I have done that work for you so that you don't have to dig through papers, right? Third part of this will be ancient Indian wisdom. India has big tradition of Ayurveda, things like that. What एंड इट्स वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग सम ऑफ द थिंग्स वी विल गेट टू कि उन्होंने क्या बोला है नींद के बारे में, सो यू नो। फोर्थ पार्ट विल बी प्रैक्टिकल स्लीप प्रोटोकॉल्स, मतलब एक्चुअली में अगर आपको अच्छी स्लीप चाहिए, अगर आप कन्विंस हो गए हाँ भाई साइंस से आयुर्वेदा ने भी कहा है कि स्लीप ज़रूरी है, तो फिर मैं आपको बताऊंगा कि हाउ टू गेट गुड स्लीप। आई विल दैट विल बी लाइक बेसिकली प्रॉपर प्रैक्टिकल स्लीप प्रोटोकॉल्स की विल टॉक। देन नंबर 5 विल बी व्हाट टू डू ऑन बैड नाइट्स, बिकॉज मैं आप जितना भी आपको टिप्स दे दूँ अच्छी स्लीप के लिए, मेरे साथ भी ये होता है कई बार रात को नींद आ ही नहीं रही होती है, और वी हैव अ रफ नाइट, और लाइक यू नो you're very tired and like some early morning wake up is there. How do you catch up? How do you make the most of bad nights? And finally, I'll talk about part 6, which is supplements and wearables. Like nowadays, there are a lot of supplements, medicines, things like that, drugs you can take for sleep, and wearables like sleep wristbands and rings and fitness watches. उनका क्या रोल है स्लीप में, वील टॉक अबाउट ऑल दैट. दिस इज माई रफ स्ट्रक्चर, बट लाइक लेट्स जस्ट बिगिन, राइट. सबसे पहली बात करते हैं हम स्लीप क्या है. यू नो स्लीप हम लोग सोचते हैं कि भाई यू जस्ट स्विच ऑफ, यू नो जैसे फ़ोन आपने बंद कर दिया थोड़ी देर के लिए, आप भी बंद हो गए. एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है. यू लूज कॉन्शियसनेस, येस, इन द सेंस कि यू आर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ वॉट इज़ गोइंग ऑन अराउंड यू, बट अ लॉट इज हैपनिंग इन साइड योर बॉडी. इट्स अ वेरी एक्टिव बायोलॉजिकल प्रोसेस आर हैपनिंग. आप सोए तो एक तरह से एक अलग सेट ऑफ बायोलॉजिकल प्रोसेस चालू हो जाते हैं, कई और फैक्ट्रियाँ खुल जाती हैं आपकी बॉडी में, जो आपका जो आपके स्लीप के वक्त भी काम हो रहा होता है. जैसे कि जब आप सो जाते हो तो एक सिटी पूरी नहीं सो जाती है. आपकी सिटी में जो आई डोंट नो गार्बेज कलेक्शन सिस्टम है, सूएज का सिस्टम है, वाटर पंप्स हैं, बिजली है, वो सब चलता रहता है. सो अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स कंटिन्यू टू हैपन एंड अ लॉट ऑफ न्यू थिंग्स स्टार्ट हैपनिंग व्हेन यू गो टू स्लीप. तो इसलिए स्लीप को ये मत सोचिए कि हाँ भाई अभी थोड़ी देर स्विच ऑफ हो जाते हैं. नहीं, वो बहुत ज़रूरी चीज़ें हैं जो हमारी बॉडी में होती हैं, जो उस टाइम पे होनी ज़रूरी है, और सर्टन टाइम के लिए वो होनी ज़रूरी है. ये भी नहीं कि आपने आधे घंटे में, जो 8 घंटे की स्लीप है, 7 घंटे की स्लीप है, आप 2 घंटे में नहीं कर सकते वो पूरा काम. तो स्लीप क्या है, साइंटिफिकली स्पीकिंग दे कॉल इट अ न्यूरोलॉजिकल स्टेट विच इज़ रेगुलेटेड बाय 2 सिस्टम्स. ठीक है, उन 2 सिस्टम्स का एक का नाम है होम्योस्टैटिक ड्राइव. मैं थोड़े थोड़े नोट्स मेरे पास है, मैं देखता रहूँगा बिकॉज सम टर्म्स आर वेरी साइंटिफिक. एंड देर इज़ समथिंग होम्योस्टैटिक ड्राइव इज़ बेसिकली योर स्लीप प्रेशर. जो मतलब आपको नींद कितनी आ रही है, लोग कहते हैं मुझे बहुत नींद आ रही है, दैट मीन्स इज वेरी हाई स्लीप प्रेशर. एंड द सेकेंड थिंग इज सर्केडियम रिदम, विच इज़ बेसिकली योर बायोलॉजिकल क्लॉक. जी हाँ, आपके अंदर भी एक घड़ी लगी हुई है और उसके हिसाब से भी आपको नींद का सिग्नल आता है. तो सबसे पहले स्लीप प्रेशर क्या है. स्लीप प्रेशर बढ़ता है जब आप जितनी देर अवेक रहते हैं, जितनी देर आप नहीं सोओगे उतनी देर आपका स्लीप प्रेशर धीरे धीरे बढ़ता जाएगा. इवेंचुअली इतना बढ़ जाएगा कि आपसे जगा ही नहीं जाएगा, राइट. ये क्या हो रहा है, ये आपके अंदर एक केमिकल है एडिनोसिन. एडिनोसिन नाम का एक केमिकल आपके अंदर ब्रेन में आ जाता है. वो जैसे जैसे आप जगते रहते हो वो बढ़ता रहता है. एज you stay awake longer, adenosine rises, and the more adenosine rises, the sleepier you will feel. ठीक है. For example, when you use caffeine, which is the most common drug you can say in tea, coffee, cold drinks, they have it. What it does is it blocks the adenosine receptor. You can say जैसे adenosine घूम रहा है, लेकिन जहाँ पे वो ब्रेन में वो एब्जॉर्ब होता है, वो कैफीन वहाँ जाके रोक देता है. इट्स लाइक अ गाड़ी पार्किंग में लगनी है, अगर एडिनोसिन एक कार की तरह है, तो अगर आपकी जो कार की पार्किंग्स को आप रिसेप्टर बोल सकते हो, तो वो रिसेप्टर में गाड़ी नहीं जा पाती बिकॉज कैफीन जाके उसे ब्लॉक कर देता है. इसका ये मतलब है कि वो हटाता नहीं है नींद की नींद, वो सिर्फ थोड़ी देर के लिए पार्किंग में जाने से रोक देता है. तो आपका स्लीप प्रेशर कम हो जाता है, लेकिन एडिनोसिन बढ़ता रहता है. इसलिए अगर आप कॉफ़ी पीते हो तो आपकी नींद खुल जाती है, लेकिन कुछ देर बाद बहुत ही जोर की क्रैश आता है. फिर इवेंचुअली आप बहुत ज़्यादा थक जाते हो बिकॉज वो एडिनोसिन घूम रहा था. तो ठीक है. द सेकेंड थिंग दैट आई स्पोक अबाउट वॉज सर्केडियन रिदम, विच इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. इट इज़ एन इंटरनल क्लॉक. हमारे अंदर एक 24 घंटे की इंटरनल क्लॉक है. ठीक है. और ये एक ब्रेन का हिस्सा है, बड़ा मुश्किल है प्रोनाउंस करना, फिर भी मैं आपको बोल देता हूँ. सुप्राचियास्मैटिक न्यूक्लियस एक ब्रेन में है, उसमें ये क्लॉक लगी हुई है, और वो लाइट से रिस्पॉन्ड करती है ज़्यादातर क्लॉक. लेकिन फिर भी उसका जो लाइट ना भी हो, फिर भी उसको पता है कि 24 घंटे में उसका साइकिल है. मॉर्निंग लाइट जब नॉर्मली लेकिन आती है तो आपकी बॉडी कहती है उठ जाओ उठ जाओ. तभी कई लोग होते हैं जिनको सुबह होते हैं, रोशनी होती है थोड़ी सी भी, उनकी नींद खुल जाती है. और जब डार्कनेस आती है तो आपकी बॉडी मेलाटोनिन रिलीज़ करती है, और वो एक अलग कंपाउंड है ब्रेन में, उससे आपको फिर नींद आने लगती है. ठीक है. नाउ दिस इज़ वेयर स्लीप हैपन्स. नाउ लॉट ऑफ पीपल थिंक कि भाई स्लीप जो है वो ठीक है, फिर नींद आ गई, फिर मैं सो गया. लेकिन जब नींद भी आती है तो नींद भी अलग अलग तरह की है, राइट. नींद के कई फेजेस हैं, नींद की कई क्वालिटीज़ हैं, वो नींद कैसे मेजर होती है, वो जब ब्रेन के वेव्स देखते हैं, जो व्हेन साइंटिस्ट स्टडी थ्रू MRIs और अदर डिवाइसेस, दे स्टडी द वेरियस ब्रेन waves. So our brains have electromagnetic waves going on at all time, and they change when we sleep. So when they go very slow, it's called something else. It's when they go little bit medium, it's called something else. Broadly speaking, एक पहली स्टेज होती है, उसे लाइट स्लीप बोला जाता है. जब आप शुरू में लेटते हो, आप थोड़े से थकने लगते हो, झोंके आने लगते हैं, आपको आई मूवमेंट स्लो हो जाती है. 5% ऑफ योर स्लीप इज़ लाइक दैट. जब हल्की हल्की नींद आने लग रही है, उसे लाइट स्लीप बोलते हैं. उसके बाद फिर स्टेबल स्लीप, मतलब आप प्रॉपर नींद में हो और आपकी ब्रेन वेव स्लो हो जाती हैं, आपका टेम्परेचर भी बॉडी का थोड़ा कम हो जाता है और हार्ट रेट भी कम हो जाता है. तो ये आपकी 45 to 55% ऑफ टोटल स्लीप ऐसी होती है. आधी नींद आपकी, इसे स्टेबल स्लीप बोलते हैं. इसको यू कैन कॉल इट लाइट स्लीप ऑल्सो इन अ वे, बट इट इज़ प्रॉपर स्लीप, राइट. सो दैट इज़ द आधी नींद आपकी वो है. लेकिन और क्या क्या आपकी नींद है, उसके बाद एक स्टेज आती है डीप स्लीप. सो रिलेटिव टू दैट, जो पहली स्लीप के बाद एक और स्लीप आती है, वो है डीप स्लीप, जो बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेज है. उसमें आपकी बॉडी के जो ब्रेन के वेव्स हैं सबसे ज़्यादा स्लो हो जाते हैं. उसमें आपको उठाएगा अगर कोई, तो आपको बहुत मुश्किल होती है. कहते हैं यार क्यों उठा दिया. कई बार ऐसे गहरी नींद से जब बंदा उठता है, उसको बहुत ग्रॉगी भी फील होता है, राइट. दिस इज़ अराउंड 15 to 25% ऑफ योर स्लीप. मतलब अगर आप 8 घंटे सो रहे हो, तो 1.5-2 घंटे ये वाली स्लीप होती है, डीप स्लीप. और ये बहुत ज़रूरी है. और इसमें क्या क्या होता है, अब मैं आपको बताता हूँ. इस डीप स्लीप में ये नहीं कि आप बहुत गहरी नींद में सो गए हो, आपकी बॉडी में ये सब हो रहा है, ठीक है. ग्रोथ हार्मोन रिलीज़ हो रहा है, मसल रिपेयर हो रहा है. अगर आप चले हो, एक्सरसाइज किया है, काफ़ी कुछ पार्ट्स घिस गए हैं बॉडी के, वो थोड़ा ठीक होते हैं. इम्यून सिस्टम आपका स्ट्रेंथन होता है. आपकी इम्यून सिस्टम पूरा दिन फाइट करता है जर्म्स बैक्टीरिया जो हवा में हैं, आपके आसपास हैं, तो उसको रीबिल्ड करने के लिए वो डीप स्लीप में होता है. ब्लड प्रेशर गिरता है और ब्रेन का डिटॉक्स सिस्टम एक्टिवेट हो जाता है. एक तरह से यू कैन से कि कूड़ा करकट सारा इकट्ठा करना, जैसे एक सिटी का सुबह सुबह आती है गाड़ी और ले जाती है और आपको पता भी नहीं लगता कि क्या हो रहा है. समथिंग लाइक दैट इज़ हैपनिंग. तो इफ़ यू मिस दिस, इट वोंट हैपन, राइट. सो दिस डीप स्लीप इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड इनफैक्ट लोग कहते हैं कि जैसे जैसे हम एज करते हैं, डीप स्लीप अपने आप भी कम होती है. जो ओल्डर लोग होते हैं, आई एम ऑल्सो नॉट दैट यंग, सो आई एम गेसिंग कि मेरी जो डीप स्लीप अप है वो शायद कम है जितनी मैं जब यंग एज में था तब थी. और उसकी वजह से एजिंग एक्सेलरेट होती है. सो वन ऑफ द रीज़न पीपल एज एंड डाई इज़ बिकॉज डीप स्लीप कम होते जाती है. मतलब इट्स सो इंपॉर्टेंट. डीप स्लीप इट देन यू एवरीथिंग गेट्स बिल्ड, ठीक है. और एक फाइनल स्टेज ऑफ, एक और स्टेज है जो स्लीप की, वो है REM स्लीप. आपने सुनी भी होगी, REM स्लीप उसे बोलते हैं, which is basically rapid eye movement. They actually measured it that when subjects were sleeping at certain times of the night, the eyes are moving a lot. This is usually when you are dreaming, right? तो वो ड्रीम्स में आपने, अगर आपने देखा, आपको लगता होगा कि मूवी की तरह ही चल रही है, तो आपकी बॉडी में आपकी आंखें हिल रही होती हैं. लेकिन आपकी बॉडी में कमाल देखिए कि एक ऐसा बॉडी ने सिस्टम बनाया हुआ है कि आपके सारी बाकी बॉडी पैरालाइज्ड है. सो जो रेम स्लीप है उसमें आपको आपकी आइज़ बहुत एक्टिव है, आपका ब्रेन भी बहुत एक्टिव है क्योंकि आपको सपने आ रहे हैं, लेकिन आपके हाथ पैर सब बाकी सारे पार्ट्स एकदम डिसेबल कर दिए गए हैं. क्योंकि अगर वो नहीं होगा तो आप अपने ड्रीम्स सोते सोते एक्ट आउट करने लग जाओगे, उछलने कूदने लग जाओगे. अगर आप ड्रीम में कहीं छुट्टी पे गए हो, कुछ कर रहे हो, घूम रहे हो, तो आप अपने आपके हाथ पाँव चलने लग जाएंगे. सो दैट इज़ नॉट वेरी गुड. सो दैट इज़ व्हाट इज़ हैपनिंग. सो अगर जो डीप स्लीप है, दे से कि जैसे डीप स्लीप में बॉडी रिपेयर होती है, इम्यून सिस्टम, डिटॉक्सिफिकेशन, ये वो. रेम स्लीप क्यों है? सो वी डोंट नो फुली, ओके. साइंस की भी लिमिटेशंस हैं, साइंस भी नई नई चीज़ें सीख रहा है, लेकिन काफ़ी लोगों का ये कहना है, साइंटिस्ट का, कि रेम स्लीप में आपका माइंड रिपेयर होता है. मतलब अगर डीप स्लीप में आपकी बॉडी रिपेयर होती है, रेम स्लीप में आपका माइंड रिपेयर होता है. मतलब आपकी माइंड फाइलिंग करता है. वो सपने एक तरीका है आपकी बॉडी का, सारे जो आपके इमोशनल एक्सपीरियंसेस हैं, जो भी लाइफ के एक्सपीरियंस हैं, उनकी एक फाइलिंग हो जाए, साफ आप सब कुछ समझ जाओ. जो कई चीज़ें नहीं भी समझ आई आपको लाइफ में, वो ब्रेन अपने हिसाब से ऑर्डर करके रख देता है. लाइक आई सेड, 100% इवन वी डोंट नो what exactly is happening, how is each dream correlated, बट कहीं ना कहीं आपने देखा हो तो ड्रीम आपकी लाइफ में जो हुआ है उसके आसपास से ही मिलता जुलता है. अगर आप ठीक से नहीं सोते और आप स्पेशली आपकी अगर रेम स्टेज नहीं होती, तो आप बहुत इरिटेबल होते हो, आपको बड़े एंशियस होते हो, बड़े सेंसिटिव होते हो, आपका इमोशनली यू आर नॉट इन अ वेरी गुड प्लेस इफ़ यू डोंट गेट रेम स्लीप. और अगर आप डीप स्लीप नहीं मिलती, तो यू आर फिजिकली नॉट इन अ गुड शेप, यू विल हैव अ हेडेक, यू हैव बॉडी पेन, थिंग्स लाइक दैट. तो ये सब तब हो रहा है जब स्लीप आपकी डेप्रीवेशन है. फाइनल चीज़ मैं स्लीप के बारे में ये बोलूँगा कि स्लीप साइकिल 90 मिनट्स की होती है. तो जैसे एक लाइट स्लीप की साइकिल आई 90 मिनट्स की, फिर उसके बाद डीप स्लीप आई, फिर उसके बाद रैम स्लीप आई। ऐसा नहीं है कि 5-5 मिनट में चेंज हो रहा है। एक काफ़ी देर तक आप रैम में रहते हो, काफ़ी देर तक डीप में रहते हो, काफ़ी देर तक स्लीप में रहते हो। इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका ये मतलब है कि अगर आप लेट सोते हो तो जो पहली स्टेज थी वो निकल गई, फिर वो नहीं आएगी, राइट? या अगर आप जल्दी उठ गए और उसका आपको और सोना था तो वो एक हो सकता है आपका पूरा रैम स्लीप निकल ही जाए उस रात का, हो सकता है डीप स्लीप भी आपकी निकल जाए, राइट? सो दैट्स वाई इट्स नॉट द सेम कि आप 10 बजे सो गए और 6 बजे उठ गए, या फिर आप सोचते हैं मैं रात के 2 बजे सोऊंगा और सुबह 10 बजे उठूंगा, सेम नहीं है। हो सकता है आपके जो वो 90 मिनट के साइकिल्स हैं वो ऑफ हो जाएं। तो इसलिए ये स्लीप का बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट आर्किटेक्चर है। और अगर आपने ये नहीं किया तो आपकी या तो डीप स्लीप हट जाएगी या रैम स्लीप हट जाएगी, विच विल लीड टू प्रॉब्लम्स इन टर्म्स ऑफ योर मेंटल स्टेट एंड इन योर फिजिकल स्टेट। तो ये दोनों चीज़ें ध्यान में रखना बहुत ज़रूरी है। वाई डू वी नीड स्लीप? अगेन कई लोगों ने ये भी कहा कि स्लीप चाहिए क्यों, क्यों ना हमारे ब्रेन या बॉडी जो है चीज़ें कर ले, बिना सोए ही हम सब कुछ ठीक कर लें भाई, बिना सोए ही सफाई हो जाए। पर समहाउ जो हमारा डिज़ाइन है, और मैं तो था नहीं जब डिज़ाइन हो रहा था, और ये डिज़ाइन जो भी नेचर ने किया है, गॉड ने किया, जैसे भी किया है, उसमें ये है कि कुछ चीज़ें स्लीप के टाइम ही होती है जो जो नॉर्मली नहीं होती व्हेन वी आर अवेक, लाइक ब्रेन क्लिनजिंग। जो ब्रेन है उसकी सफाई होती है जब हम पूरा दिन, हमारा ब्रेन इधर से उधर सिग्नल कर रहा है, फ्लूइड्स भेज रहा है, सेरिब्रो स्पाइनल फ्लूइड होता है ब्रेन में, तो उसमें मेटाबॉलिक वेस्ट होते हैं, वो सब की क्लीनिंग स्लीप में होती है, ठीक है? नंबर 1। नंबर 2, मेमोरी कंसोलिडेशन। जब आप सो रहे हो तो आपकी मेमोरी कंसोलिडेशन होती है, सो दैट्स ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, दैट कैन ऑल्सो हैपन इन स्लीप। एंड थर्ड इज़ द इमोशनल रीसेट। जैसे मैंने कहा, जो सपने आते हैं उससे आपका इमोशनली, आपका जो ब्रेन है वो थोड़ा काम हो जाता है, क्योंकि जो भी इमोशनल एक्सपीरियंसेस हुए वो ड्रीम्स, पता नहीं कैसे, पर वो ड्रीम्स बनते हैं और ड्रीम्स से फाइलिंग हो जाती है, और उसके बाद आपको वो इमोशंस इतना बॉदर नहीं करता। मेटाबॉलिक रेगुलेशन, हार्मोनल इम्बैलेंस, ऑल दीज थिंग्स, मतलब आपका मेटाबॉलिज्म, आपका हार्मोन्स, आपके कार्डियोवैस्कुलर सिस्टम की रिकवरी, जो पूरा दिन आपका हार्ट इतनी देर धक धक करता है, रात को भी धड़कता है दिल लेकिन स्लो धड़कता है, सो दैट इट कैन रिपेयर अ लिटिल बिट, इट कैन रिकवर अ लिटिल बिट, ऑल दीज थिंग्स आर हैपनिंग इन स्लीप। तो अगर आप स्लीप नहीं करेंगे तो क्या होता है, ठीक है? नाउ वी आर गोइंग टू गेट इनटू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट फर्स्ट विद द एक्चुअल साइंस, व्हाट वर द स्टडीज डन। लेकिन जो लोग 24 घंटे नहीं सोए हैं उनका रिएक्शन टाइम बहुत स्लो हो जाता है, उनकी जजमेंट नहीं रहती, देयर इरिटेबिलिटी राइजेस इन लाइफ after several nights of less sleep. Let's say you normally sleep 7-8 hours but you sleep 5-6 hours only. After several nights, you know what will happen? Insulin resistance will rise, things like, things that cause diabetes, blood pressure will rise, inflation markers will rise. Long term chronic sleep deprivation जब होता है तो उसके साथ डायबिटीज़ हो सकती है, ओबेसिटी हो सकती है, डिप्रेशन, हार्ट डिजीज, अल्जाइमर्स, दीज आर द बिगेस्ट किलर डिजीजेस बाय द वे। इंडिया में crores of people have these diseases. I'm not saying कि it's all because of sleep deprivation, but अगर आप कम सो रहे हो, you are inviting these diseases. You are far more likely to have these diseases. So people who don't sleep properly because they really wanted to check their Instagram 1 more hour, well, that's at the cost of the risk of taking these diseases. So you decide. तो sleep जो है बहुत ज़्यादा आपकी बॉडी का कोर हिस्सा है। आप एक दिन वर्कआउट नहीं करोगे, इट्स ओके, पर अगर आप एक दिन सोओगे नहीं, दैट इज़ क्वाइट बैड, राइट? एंड इफ you don't do meditation or you don't eat your diet properly, it's bad, but it's not as bad as sleep. That's why the first episode of this series of Dilate, the first way to live longer is get your sleep right. That's why I feel sleep is important, and that's why um, this is the most like important episode I would say I would do. But of course I'll do other episodes also on how to extend your life. But now let's move on. We finished the section. Hopefully I've convinced you sleep ज़रूरी है. Sleep किस तरह की होती है, किस किस REM sleep, deep sleep, light sleep, 1.5 घंटे की होती है, skip नहीं करना है, skip करेंगे तो problems आती हैं. तो ये कैसे, like how does science actually test this, right? How does the actual testing work? कुछ लोगों को बेचारों को ज़्यादा सुलाया जाता है, कुछ लोगों को कम सुलाया जाता है. इमेजिन द एक्सपेरिमेंट हैपनिंग वेयर पीपल हैव टू से आप कम सोगे, आप ज़्यादा सोगे. वेल, दैट्स हाउ दे एक्चुअली डिड इट. लेट्स से द first study I'm talking about, which is a very famous study, which is the sleep restriction and cognitive performance study. I'll read a little bit because I don't want to miss the technical terms. This was done in University of Pennsylvania, which is in the Washington State University. These two universities did it together, and it was published in a journal called Sleep. Yes, one of very famous journal for sleep is called Sleep. Lead researcher was Dr. David Dinges, and in 2003 they did this test on 48 healthy adults between 21 and 38, और उनको 14 दिन तक दे पुट देम इन अ कंट्रोल्ड लैब सेटिंग, मतलब 14 दिन उन लोगों को अपने पास ही रखा, और कुछ लोगों का 8 आवर्स इन बेड, some people were given 6 hours in bed, some people were given 4 hours in bed, and total sleep deprivation was done for 3 days. So 3 days के लिए people were given some 8 hour group, 6 hour group, 4 hour, आप इतना ही सो गए, आप इतना ही सो गए, आप इतना ही सो गए, right? उसके बाद they were given something called a psychomotor vigilant task. मतलब इट्स लाइक अ टाइम टेस्ट, उसमें आपको मोटर टास्क होता है, आपको जैसे कुछ कंट्रोल्स हैं, फटाफट रिस्पॉन्ड करना है, यू कैन से लाइक अ वीडियो गेम, दे हैव टू प्ले टू चेक देयर रिएक्शन टाइम, कैसे करते हैं. तो क्या हुआ, सो व्हाट वर द रिजल्ट्स. ओके, सो जो 6 घंटे वाला ग्रुप था, आफ्टर 14 days दे फाउंड दैट जो पीपल हु स्लेप्ट 6 hours, after 14 days they actually were behaving like somebody who has not slept for 24 straight hours. मतलब वो अगर आप 2 हफ्ते अपनी नींद कम करते हो, 6 घंटे करते हो 8 की जगह, तो इट्स समथिंग लाइक आफ्टर 2 weeks इट्स लाइक आप एक पूरा दिन नहीं सोए. सो इमेजिन यू डोंट स्लीप वन होल नाइट, हाउ डू यू फील? दैट्स हाउ दैट ग्रुप फेल्ट आफ्टर 2 weeks, बिकॉज दे वर डिप्राइव्ड ऑफ स्लीप एवरी डे फॉर फ्यू आवर्स, राइट. जो 4 hour ग्रुप था, जो सिर्फ 4 घंटे सोया, दे वर as badly performing as 48 hours of total sleep deprivation. मतलब अगर एक आदमी को आप 2 दिन तक कहो बिल्कुल नहीं सोना, फिर आप उसे वो साइको विजिलेंस मोटर टास्क, मतलब वो जो भी वो टास्क है, वीडियो गेम या वट उससे खिलवाओ, 2 दिन नहीं सोया पूरा, वर्सेस कुछ लोग जो सिर्फ 4 घंटे तो सोए हैं, लेकिन 4 घंटे सोए हैं, 2 हफ्ते से वो 4 घंटे ही सो रहे हैं, दे आर द सेम kind of reaction test. मतलब that's how bad it gets. And if you sleep only 6 hours, you are performing as much as somebody who has not slept for 24 straight hours, right? But people who had slept for 8 hours, they did well, right? So cognitive errors accumulated linearly, they did not plateau. मतलब ये ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब एक सर्टन आपने नींद कम कर दी, भाई आपकी परफॉर्मेंस लो हो गई और फिर उतनी ही है. वो जितना कम सोगे उतनी परफॉर्मेंस खराब होती जाएगी, right? So that's really bad. So you can, they actually have measured this, and it can be so bad. Like if you're sleeping less, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, after 2 weeks, it's, you are like a zombie. You are like a somebody who has not slept for 2 days. तो कोई भी आप एग्ज़ाम कर रहे हो, बॉस ने आपको काम दिया है, एनीथिंग यू आर डूइंग, ड्राइविंग, इट्स ऑल वेरी वेरी बैड बिकॉज यू आर sleep deprived, right? But you know, the most important thing about this study, which was very, I think, quite concerning, कि जो 4 घंटे वाले लोग हैं, जो कम सोते हैं, या जो 6 घंटे वाले लोग भी थे, उनका जो डिस्कम्फर्ट था ऑफ लेस स्लीप, दैट वेंट अवे आफ्टर फ्यू डेज. मतलब दैट स्लीपीनेस स्टेबिलाइज्ड आफ्टर फ्यू डेज. मतलब दे वर स्लीपिंग लेस, फर्स्ट फ्यू डेज दे सेड हाँ यार, आई हैव स्लेप्ट लेस, only 6 hours, only 6 hours, only 4 hours, only 4 hours. But after 5-6 days, they didn't complain so much about being sleepy all day. But their performance was still low on all the tasks given to them. So that is very dangerous. You could be sleep deprived right now. You may not be feeling sleepy, right? You may feel, okay, I feel okay, yaar. But if you've not slept enough, your body is not telling you that you have not slept enough. But when you actually do the tasks that are given to you, like for example, if you are studying, आप मैथ्स पढ़ रहे हो, या आपके बॉस ने आपको कुछ काम दिया है, कुछ रिपोर्ट बनानी है, या यू आर ड्राइविंग, और एनी ऑफ दीज थिंग्स, it's basically your performance is going to be very poor. I mean, it can actually be even dangerous, right? In things like we always say don't drink and drive, okay, which is very good, we shouldn't drink and drive. But if you haven't slept enough and you drive, which often happens, and as you know, in India, lot of commercial vehicle drivers, they बेचारे double shift, triple shift, पता नहीं क्या क्या करते रहते हैं. You can see it, sometimes they've not slept enough. It is extremely dangerous to drive when you're sleep deprived. It's extremely dangerous if you're a doctor, if you're a surgeon, and if you're doing surgery and you've not slept enough. Think about it. How many doctors say we haven't slept enough and they are doing surgeries? Well, they're almost like a drunk man doing a surgery, a drunk man doing driving. Pilots, you know, big decision makers, and students preparing for exams. Think about it. You have a big exam and तुम सोच रहे हो मैं रात भर जागूंगा, मैं सोऊंगा नहीं, मैं पढ़ता रहूंगा, and I'll do well. It's actually going to backfire, because if you don't sleep enough, you're not going to perform well on cognition tasks, on motor tasks, things like that. So please understand that less sleep is slowly, you're actually just damaging your brain, and you're damaging your performance. This was what this study said. There was another study which is called the nurses health study. ठीक है, this is a very interesting study. It was done in the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and it came in the journal called JAMA, which is a medical journal, very famous and very prestigious. 1986 में ये study हुई और ये 10 साल चली. मतलब they followed up after 10 years. What did they do? They studied nurses, right? Nurses have a very different kind of sleep. Sometimes they're not sleeping well. Some sleep properly, some are not able to. They did this research on 71,617 women. So it's a big study, and they checked the results at a certain point कितना सो रही हैं वो, and after 10 years they checked them. उनके health markers क्या है, मतलब जो people who sleep less, people who sleep normal, people who sleep and what is the results? The results were quite surprising. I mean, in some ways, because now you're talking actually not just कि इसका effect on disease क्या होता है. Again, I'm not saying driving or things like that. So women who slept less than 5 hours on an average, right? These are a big sample of women. In 10 years' time, they have a 15% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. They have a 23 high risk of coronary events, मतलब heart attacks and all, 23%. And there's 34% higher risk of type 2 diabetes. But if you don't sleep properly, very, very high chance that you'll have type 2 diabetes. Obesity risk increased by 32%. So women who sleep less, this study showed that they are more likely to gain weight, get diabetes, get heart disease, right? This is not just for women. It is probably there for men as well. I mean, this study was on nurses, so they did it on women. And Indians also are part of the same thing. I mean, probably the results will be similar. In fact, Indians people have now said that have higher insulin resistance. तो हमारा diabetes का chance वैसे ही ज़्यादा है. So अगर हम कम सो रहे हैं and then Indian genetics and less sleep is metabolic disaster. मतलब anyway we have higher chance of diabetes, and then if you sleep less you are just multiplying those chances. What a silly way to live your life कि भाई हम कम सोएंगे, कोई बात नहीं, हम काम करेंगे, हम पार्टी करेंगे. Well, you are just slowly trying to kill yourself, Study number 3, which I thought was very interesting, was a Whitehall 2 study. It was done in University College of London. Again came in the journal called Sleep, and there were 10,000 plus British civil servants in this study. 10,000. Follow-up was done after 25 years. So imagine some of these studies. They see a person and they say 25 साल बाद उनका क्या हुआ. So men, this was on men, sleeping 5 hours or less had 25% increased risk of all cause mortality. मतलब कोई भी reason से मरना, if you are sleeping less, your chances of dying are 25% more, right? ठीक है. And cardiovascular mortality for men increased 45%. These are 10,000 people they checked, and after 25 years, जो लोग 7 घंटे सोते हैं versus जो लोग 5 घंटे सोते हैं, 5 घंटे वालों का 45% चांस ज़्यादा है कि आपको हार्ट अटैक होगा. This is not a small effect, right? This is 45% is very big. It's almost like you have a disease already, right? So like many things, like if you don't exercise, probably your risk goes up 45%. So if you don't sleep properly, your risk goes up 45%. It's the same. So if you're saying, no, I'll just exercise. No, you have to sleep, right? Another study, I'll say sleep and immunity. This study was done in University of California in San Francisco. Again, came in a journal called Sleep. 164 healthy adults. Dr. Eric Prather was the lead researcher in this. The study was called rhinovirus exposure under quarantine conditions. Rhinovirus, rhino is nose. It's like the common cold virus actually. उसका नाम है, scientific name. तो उन्होंने क्या किया, लोगों को अलग अलग टाइम के लिए सुलाया, राइट? तो उन्होंने कहा कि आप लोग 5 घंटे से कम सोगे, आप लोग 5 से 6 घंटे के बीच सोगे, आप 6 से 7 घंटे सोगे, आप 7 घंटे सोगे. सो 4 ग्रुप्स बना दिया, राइट? देन दे गेव देम एक्सपोजर टू द कोल्ड वायरस कि देखते किसको जुकाम जल्दी होता है. ऑफन इफ यू नोटिस पीपल इन रियल लाइफ ऑल्सो से कि यार मैं कम सोया हूँ तो जल्दी बीमार हो जाते हैं. वेल दे सेड लेट्स जस्ट टेस्ट इट आउट कि एग्जैक्टली होता क्या है. ओके, हियर्स व्हाट हैपेंड. इफ़ यू स्लीप अंडर 5 आवर्स, इफ़ यू आर इन दैट ग्रुप जिसको 5 घंटे से कम सोना है, 4.5 टाइम्स मतलब 450% मोर लाइकली टू डेवलप द क्लिनिकल कोल्ड. मतलब आपको जो कोल्ड लगने का, जो आपको वायरस सबको दिया गया है, लेकिन जो कम सोया है उसका 450% चांस ज़्यादा है, 4.5 गुना चांस. जो 5 से 6 घंटे सोया है उसका 4.2 टाइम्स मोर लाइकली है. जो 6 से 7 घंटे सोया है उसका 1.7 टाइम्स मोर लाइकली दैन समबडी हु हैज स्लेप्ट 7 आवर्स. मतलब 7 घंटे से आपने 1 घंटा कम किया अपनी नींद, आपके डबल हो जाता है ऑलमोस्ट चांस कि आपको वो कोल्ड पकड़ लेगा। और अगर आपने 5-6 घंटे सोए तो 4 गुना हो जाता है, और 5 घंटे से कम सोए तो 4.5 गुना हो जाता है। आई मीन दे एक्चुअली मेजर्ड कि कैसे वायरल रेप्लिकेशन हो रहा है और कितना म्यूकस आपके अंदर आ रहा है, नॉट जस्ट पीपल सिंग हाँ यार मुझे जुकाम वाली फीलिंग आ रही है, मतलब दे एक्चुअली चेक कि वायरस कितना मल्टीप्लाई करता है। रिमेंबर कोविड गाइज, same probably response would have happened there. People who didn't sleep properly, people they probably have a higher chance of they must have got COVID, right? Or any virus actually. Why? Because when you sleep your immune system becomes stronger, आपका immune system बढ़ता है, and then it can create more antibodies to fight all these viruses and bacteria whatever. तो आपका तो हम तो इंडिया में रहते हैं जहाँ इतने बैक्टीरिया इतनी इन्फेक्शन एक्सपोजर है, राइट? ओके वी हैव मेडिसिन, बट भैया यहाँ तो खुद ही अपने आप को बचाना होता है, आपको भी पता है बात। सो वन ऑफ द बेस्ट वेज इज़ टू स्लीप प्रॉपरली। अगर आपसे कोई आपके मम्मी या पापा या आपका भाई या आप खुद भी अपने आप को कन्विंस कर रहे हो कि नहीं यार 5 घंटे काफ़ी है, मैं तो कर लेता हूँ, वेल दिस इज़ वॉट यू आर playing with. You know, you're playing with a much higher disease risk that you're doing. Finally, I'll talk to you about final study, sleep, memory, and Alzheimer's research. I'm not going to go into too much details on it, but it was done by UC Berkeley by a very famous sleep scientist called Matthew Walker. It came in Nature, and they found basically that deep sleep ke time a lot of detoxification happens of the brain. It's very technical study, so I won't go too much into it. But it basically said that the deep sleep जो है, which is also called slow wave sleep, activates the glymphatic system, the brain's cleaning mechanism. So it does that because over decades अगर वो cleaning system ठीक नहीं चलता है, you have a higher chance of getting things like Alzheimer's, you know, disease, dementia, things like that, where your brain doesn't work properly. For people, they forget things, and ultimately it's a very, very bad disease. So there are many other studies that have been done. Testosterone levels go up if you sleep properly. You know, if you don't have if you don't sleep properly, then testosterone will go down. You'll have bad moods, increased lots and lots of insulin sensitivity. People who sleep less, their insulin sensitivity kharab ho jati hai. So we've gone through that, but generally to summarize, you are increasing your mortality risk 25%, you're increasing insulin sensitivity, you're increasing 4 times higher infection risk, drop in testosterone, your tasks, attention tasks, focus tasks, study tasks, motor tasks, you're doing much badly like a drunk person. Kyun? Right? Why? Because you're not sleeping properly. And still people feel that sleep is not so important. Mood की बात है, ठीक है हम तो कम में भी जी लेते हैं. Well, that's why this is the first episode, because without sleep you cannot, like, even don't even get on the journey कि I want to have a long life, healthy life. I mean, I don't even know what to say. If you can't sleep properly, बाकी जितनी भी मैं आपको बताऊंगा, बहुत सारे podcasts hopefully I'll make, you know, they're not going to work if you don't sleep properly. So please fix this foundation thing, right? Let's get to part 3 now, right? Which is a very interesting part, especially for us Indians, which I was very surprised because देखिए मैं ये podcast इसलिए बना रहा हूँ कि मैं खुद भी सीखूँ. मैं कोई डॉक्टर नहीं हूँ, right? मैं कोई साइंटिस्ट नहीं हूँ. I'm not even a spiritual guru or some ancient Indian wisdom expert. I'm not that guy. And it's maybe a good thing. What I am is just a curious person. जो मैं एज एन एवरेज पर्सन जानना चाहता हूँ कि हमारी नॉलेज एंशिएंट क्या कहती है, मॉडर्न क्या कहता है, कैसे हम अपनी लाइफ को बेटर कर सकते हैं, कैसे वी कैन लिव बेटर एंड लॉन्गर. सो आई थॉट आई विल कंबाइन दिस एंशिएंट इंडियन विजडम ऑल्सो in this. So let's step out of the lab, which is the scientific lab and journals and university studies, and step into India. हमारा जो पुराना इंडिया, not just modern India, because long before these MRI machines and sleep journals, neuroscientists, इंडिया ने स्लीप के बारे में काफ़ी कुछ कहा था. और एंड दे हैड सेड दैट स्लीप इज़ द सेंटर ऑफ हेल्थ. एंड आई डग डीप. अगेन लाइक आई सेड, इट्स नॉट माई ओपिनियन, इट्स नॉट जस्ट मेरे दादाजी कहते थे. So there is a big, one of the classic Ayurveda literature is called Charaka Samahita, which is written something around 1000 BC, 200 CE type. Sleep is described as one of the 3 pillars of life. ये मैं आपको एक पढ़ के बताता हूँ कोट जो आमस से देवनागरी में है. आई एम अगेन, प्लीज़ फॉरगिव मी इफ़ माई संस्कृत प्रोनाउंसिएशन इज़ नॉट वेरी गुड. मैंने क्लास 8 की बात करी नहीं थी, बट फिर भी मैं कोशिश करता हूँ. त्रयो प्रसथवा आहार निद्रा ब्रह्मचार्य, which basically means the 3 supporting pillars of life are food, sleep and regulated use of energy. It's amazing because today also the fitness pillars are nutrition, sleep, and exercise. So it's kind of linked to that, but it's there. In those three things are there. Thousands of years ago, they didn't have journals and MRI machines, but they did say it's one of the three: food, sleep, and regulated use of energy. We'll talk about food, energy also in other episodes and lots of other episodes. But think about that. It is not just said that sleep is for relaxing or just feeling good. It is a pillar. It's a structural necessity. जैसे घर की फाउंडेशन होती है ना, वैसे आपकी ज़िंदगी की फाउंडेशन आपकी नींद है. एक और उसमें चरका संहिता का मैं वर्ड्स पढ़ के आपको बताता हूँ. लेट मी रीड इट बिकॉज इट्स हार्ड टू रिमेंबर इट. सुख दुख पुष्टि कृष्यता बल अबल वृश्यता कलैब्यम ज्ञान अज्ञान जीवंत मरंच निद्रा निदान भवति. What is the translation? It means happiness and sorrow, nourishment and emaciation, strength and weakness, virility and impotence, knowledge and ignorance, life and death all depend on sleep. Think about it. What did it say? Life and death depend on sleep. 2000 years ago, right? They had said this 2000 years ago. And now, with modern science, which we just talked about, mortality risk going up 22 to 30% in long term studies, diabetes risk going up, cardiovascular risk going up. It was an ancient observation, and today there is modern quantification. Matlab, it has been scientifically measured. I think it's really interesting. I'm not again like I'll never compare the two in terms of what is better than the other, but it's amazing that thousands of years ago, when there was nothing, no technology to even write things properly, you had this observation, and today it's being quantified, and we have the benefit of both. We live in times when we have both the information. Let's move to another ancient literature we have on health called Sushruta Samhita. Again, it is one of the health texts which we had in the past. So it talks about certain terms, in this. So it says Anga Marda, Jrimba, which means body ache, Jrimba, excessive yawning, Tandra, fatigue or dullness, Gaurava, heaviness, Brahma, confusion, Ajirna, indigestion. So it says basically body pain, fatigue, brain fog, digestive issues. It all comes from chronic sleep deprivation. So Ayurveda also categorizes sleep into natural sleep, disturbed sleep, excessive sleep. The emphasis is always balance. Jada nahi sona, kam bhi nahi sona. Even a Bhagavad Gita, right? There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verses 16, 17. Lord Krishna says, again, I'm going to try and read out the actual text. Natya shanastastu yogosti na chaikantam anastha nachati swapna silasya jagrato naiva chararjuna. It and there's a little more, but I'll just read the translation actually, which basically means yoga is not for one who eats too much, nor for one who eats too little, not for one who sleeps too much, not for one who sleeps too little. For one who is moderate in food and recreation, balanced in actions, regulated in sleep and wakefulness, yoga becomes the destroyer of suffering. Moderation, regulation, rhythm. This is something ancient India understood. This is our past, you can say text which said something critical. Extremes disturb the system. Today, however, we live in a culture where we glorify extremes, right? All-nighters. Sleep is for the weak. Well, ancient India had only said ki imbalance. They said don't sleep too much, but don't sleep too little, right? Don't eat too much, don't eat too little. And that imbalance will block higher functioning. Now, let's also talk about timing, which again we are still in the Indian ancient text. So even Ayurveda does this. Ayurveda has the different system. It divides the day into dosha. So there are dosha cycles. It's kapha time, which is roughly 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Others who are experts in this can probably comment better. So please excuse me, my knowledge is limited. But it's interesting because they do have the concept of the day being divided into these doshas. Kapha time 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Pitta time 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and Vata time 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So kapha time is naturally heavy and calming, ideal for sleep onset. And if you stay awake past 10 p.m., Pitta phase increases your alertness. So second wind. So modern chronobiology causes the circadian phase shift. So it is again something to do with circadian rhythm was there in our ancient system, and now in our modern like measurements also, they've measured that there is literally a internal body clock in some part of the brain, in some nucleus of the brain. So that is amazing. Even there is this concept of Brahma Muhurta. Many yogic texts recommend waking 90 minutes before sunrise. Why? Because they feel that the environment is calm, the mind is clearer, distractions are minimal. So and now we have modern science which adds to that, that morning light exposure is very important. That has come in science, which says that this strengthens your circadian rhythm. If you wake up early, your internal body clock will start working even better, in the sense that you will wake up more alert, and then at night you will start having improved melatonin release. It will improve the depth of your sleep. If you go with the circadian rhythm, according to our ancient text also, if you go with sunrise sunset kind of concept, of waking up and sleeping, you will sleep better. And now biology measures it, that the melatonin increases, your alertness in the morning explains. So again, ancient recommendation, modern biological explanation. Fascinating, isn't it? At least it is to me, right? Let's keep moving further. So Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. This is a very famous document. I remember I used to do yoga many years ago, a lot of yoga, and we used to talk about Patanjali and all the Yoga Sutras. So there is Sutra, one of the Sutra 1.10, I think. It states that Abhava Prataya Alambana Vritra Nidra, which means sleep is the mental modification based on the cognition of absent. I'll just explain the meaning of this. It basically means that the mind doesn't disappear in sleep. It enters a state where external objects are absent. So it doesn't say that things go away, right? It says the mind is active, and the modern neuroscience also agrees with this. The brain remains active. They now check brain waves. It reorganizes, it consolidates memory, it regulates emotion. So Ayurveda also has this concept of Ratri Charya, which is the nighttime discipline. Yes, again, you'll have modern scientific protocols. We'll talk in the next section, coming sections, on protocols for good sleep. But then in Ayurveda as well, there is something called Ratri Charya, which is your nighttime discipline, which has the following recommendation: light dinner, again, so that you can digest better; oil massage, which is Abhyanga, it's called; warm bath, calm reflection or prayer. Now, if you decode this scientifically, oil massage activates your parasympathetic tone, matlab it just relaxes you. Warm bath, what it does is actually lowers your body temperature afterwards. The water is warm, so the body cools down to counter that warm water hitting you, and therefore the body temperature becomes lower, and therefore that promotes sleep onset, because when we sleep, the body temperature is a little bit lower than your regular day. Light dinner, of course, no glucose spikes, digestion is easy. Calm reflection means the stress goes down, cortisol goes down. This is all ancient bedtime protocol, guys. This is not a modern science, but ancient India also respected this rhythm. Sunset meant winding down. It didn't mean LED lights or Instagram or scrolling or binge watching. There was no such thing in ancient India, and we have it now. And guess what? We are suffering for it. So sleep followed darkness, wake followed light. Light ho gayi, ud jao. Raat ho gayi, so jao. I know it's so simple, but we don't do that, right? Because now we are in the world of screens and notifications and bright lights. I mean, that's what's happening now. So ancient texts didn't treat sleep as something which is like some kind of a productivity optimization. They did see sleep as life preservation. They felt that life is coming from sleep. It connects life and death. Sleep is all connected. And like I said, we discussed so many scientific studies that mortality risk, death risk goes up if you sleep less. It's the same, guys. It's the same truth, but it's different languages. Ancient wisdom is not anti-science, and neither is science saying anything against ancient wisdom. Today, what science does is observes, it measures, provides data, makes it even more convincing. And ancient wisdom is they see by testing things and seeing what works, what doesn't work. If it works and is carried through the generations, sometimes it has some value. So either way, whichever you are a big fan of, whether you're a big fan of science or ancient wisdom, or if you're like me, both you like to be curious about, then we don't have to choose between our scripture and our science. We are integrating both here. We are learning everything we can so that we can live longer and die later. This is the Die Later podcast. This is why this podcast exists, where modern neuroscience meets ancient rhythm, right? So let's just bring that back. India also had respect for sleep, and we don't have it now. Ancient India did, we don't have it now. And life and death depend on sleep. So that's why we must protect sleep. Which brings us to the next section. Which is what you may have wanted कि sir इतना लंबा podcast क्यों है, जल्दी बताओ. Or maybe this is the reel that comes. Give us the tips. Give us the tips on how to get good sleep. And I don't know. People just want to give us the top 10. I thought it's important to share the scientific studies, ancient wisdom, to set the context before you learn this. Because if you don't understand that how important sleep is, how it will increase your disease risk, how it will increase your chances of early death, and how it will spoil your performance in cognitive tasks, in brain tasks, in motor tasks, you will not really understand it. So here are the top 10 protocols. सबसे पहले तो दोस्तों, fix sleep and wake time. मतलब आप जिस टाइम सोते हो more or less उसी टाइम रोज सोना है. If you sleep at 11 p.m. on a Monday, then try to sleep around 11 every day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 10:30, within half an hour of that. So between 10:30 and 11:30. Ideally, I would say between 10 and 11. Like make 11 the outer limit. And most important, Friday आया, Saturday आया नहीं, अब तो weekend है. आज क्या 11 बजे सोना? No. You have to try to be within that 1 hour range. If you sleep between 10 and 11, don't change too much. Maybe you sleep 10 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Friday you can push it till 11. But don't make it 1 a.m., 2 a.m., because then again on getting back to the cycle on Monday is going to be a problem. So that's not nice. So don't do that. It's going to the first thing you can do to maintain your गुड स्लीप. इफ मैंने खुद ऐसे लाइफ में ऐसा किया है कि वीकेंड है तो आप पार्टी करेंगे रात के 3 बजे तक, तो क्या हो गया, सैटरडे पूरा दिन सोते रहेंगे, संडे पूरा दिन सोते रहेंगे, बट देन मंडे कम्स एंड यू आर नॉट ऑन द सर्केडियन रिदम साइकिल. द सर्केडियन रिदम साइकिल इज वेरी डेलिकेट, एंड टुडे bars are open till late, TV is 24 hours, internet is 24 hours, phone is 24 hours. So nothing tells you in the external world that guys सोने का time हो गया, right? Nothing tells you. It's just dark at night, luckily. Otherwise, maybe one day human beings will make sure the sky also doesn't change color at night and shows you ads or something. But you have to tell yourself ki, I have to follow my body's internal clock, because that can't change. The clock inside your body cannot get evolved so fast ki you don't need it anymore. So you have to make sure that the first thing, fixed sleep and wake time even on weekends has to be there. Okay, if you want to get good sleep on a regular basis. Number 2, morning sunlight. Yes, this has been tested now. If you wake up, try to get morning sunlight. Matlab, sunlight is always good. Some sun is good, but in the morning, जो morning का sunlight का exposure है, it's important to get. And also try to get a direct sunlight, not through glass window. वो जो sunlight है, सुबह सुबह उठते ही जो एंगल वाली सनलाइट कह लो, या जो मॉर्निंग सनलाइट है, वो आपके ऊपर गिरेगी, तो आपकी जो बॉडी का सर्केडियन रिदम है, आपके जो हार्मोन रेगुलेशन है, दैट बिकम्स बेटर. In the morning, actually, a little bit of cortisol is released, which is a good thing. It is a stress hormone, but you need it in certain quantities to get alert. So you have to get that morning sun exposure. 10 to 20 minutes is enough. Ideally, you can take a little walk, or you can go to the balcony, or you can at least open the window or something like that and sit there, but don't keep the window closed. It just blocks some important wavelengths. So balcony works, terrace works, a street walk also works. It's your circadian rhythm ke liye. In fact, we had this concept called Surya Namaskar. If you think about it in yoga, it's an asana, but it is about sun salute, which means you welcome the sun in the morning. Now science has also shown that is a big help in trying to get regular sleep cycles going. Third is to control your caffeine properly. हम सब caffeine, I would say, I don't know, maybe I'm borderline caffeine addict maybe, but I love coffee, and I now have black coffee when I wake up in the morning. Try to have it a little bit later, because that adenosine in your body has to clear, and if you have it too soon, the adenosine is still in those receptors, it's still in those parking lots, it has to come out, and then caffeine has to go block it if you want that feeling, which most of us do, I think. Chai, coffee, all these things. So you have to firstly have coffee at least 1 hour after you wake up, if not at least half an hour. Don't just immediately wake up and have coffee. It will not even have an effect. But most importantly, don't have coffee later in the day. Different people have different sensitivity. कई लोग तो coffee पी के भी सो जाते हैं. I don't know how those people are. But most people, they find that if they have coffee after 4 p.m., 3 p.m., they find it difficult to sleep at night. होता ये है कि coffee या tea, when I say any caffeinated thing, Coca-Cola as well, um, has a 6 hour half life. So caffeine in your body gets used up, half of it gets used up in 6 hours. So if you had a cup of coffee at like 4 p.m., which is very strong black coffee, at 10 p.m., half of that caffeine is still there. So it's making it hard for you to sleep. So if you want to have coffee, ideally have it before 12 o'clock in the day, or at least before 2 o'clock. Chai, coffee, green tea, energy drinks, cold drinks, anything with caffeine, don't have it too much later in the day. Number 4, have a early and light dinner. This is very important. Digestion takes a lot of energy and causes stress in our body. When you are sleeping, you want to be relaxed. मैं पहले dinner खाता था 8-9 बजे के करीब, and then I would follow the circadian rhythm कि हाँ 10-11 बजे सो जाना है. I found it hard to sleep. You know, if you want to sleep early, आपका dinner और भी early होना पड़ेगा. You know, you can't just eat at 9:30 and sleep at 10. It will not be good sleep. So ideally 6 to 7 p.m. dinner is a better dinner to have if you want to sleep early. Can you have it that early? Maybe not. Indian culture में वो नहीं है. पार्टियों में मैंने देखा है 9 बजे, 10 बजे, 11 बजे, 1 बजे भी रात के डिनर हो रहा है. That's of course too late, but try not to make it too much later than 7 o'clock, 7:30. You know, if you have a dinner, at least finish it 3 hours before bed. You know, and light dinner, right? Dinner should not be heavy. ऐसे खा रहे हो पकौड़े जलेबियाँ, come on guys. So what's going to happen? Like it's not going to be. That's not exactly a dinner that you want to have. A little bit protein, not very spicy, not very oily. You know, like anything, whenever you eaten something heavy, very spicy, you find that it's difficult to sleep, or you don't get very good sleep at night because your stomach, your digestion system is under stress. So you know it prevents sleep. So the earlier you eat, the lighter you eat dinner, the better it is. Number 5, dim the lights. Dim the lights at night. At night, if you have very bright lighting, you know, it's not going to help with your circadian clock, because वो clock जो है वो darkness से भी regulate होती है. What does that mean? जब darkness आती है, the clock says सोने का time है, therefore melatonin release करो, start making you feel tired, start making you feeling sleepy, and more sleep build up happens. If you have bright lights, your brain gets confused. So the clock still tries to do the job, but the bright lights try to counter it. It's not good to have that. Now, the bright light may not be in your room, but your phone is very bright light. And if it has moving images, and that to one of those highly stimulating reels, it's not going to be good. So that can suppress. In fact, अगर आप लो लाइट कर दोगे अपने रूम में, स्पेशली सोने से 1 घंटा पहले, बिल्कुल मिनिमल लाइट, जितना आपको मतलब मिनिमम चाहिए रूम में चलने फिरने के लिए, उतनी कर दोगे सोने से पहले, इट विल हेल्प यू रिलैक्स much better. Okay, which brings us to the next thing, which is screen discipline. Like, you know, this light is of course bad, but just seeing a lot of screen and a lot of stimulating content, crime shows and news, 9 p.m. news. I mean, have you seen Indian news debates? अगर आप वो देख के सोने जाओगे, कैसे आपको नींद आएगी चैन की? Don't watch only, I would say. But if you have to watch, like, you know, do not watch right before bed or 2-3 hours before bed. And your phone, you know, I've seen people, they keep the phone for charging like right next to when they are sleeping. It's not good. Your brain is always going to be aware कि ये फ़ोन वहाँ पड़ा है, and उसका मन करेगा देखने का. अगर आपको रात को भी उठोगे, कभी आप फ़ोन देखोगे, फिर आप नोटिफिकेशन देखोगे, अरे वॉर स्टार्ट हो गया, अरे उसने मेरे को ये मैसेज भेज दिया, अरे उसका ये प्रॉब्लम हो गई, and then you can't go back to sleep and you have a bad night of sleep. Why? So charge the phone in another room, simple, or very far away from you, ताकि it's not that easy. And don't look at it even if you wake up in the middle of the night. Don't. It's okay. कोई नहीं, आप नहीं हो प्राइम मिनिस्टर, आप नहीं हो प्रेसिडेंट, कुछ नहीं हो रहा, और वो लोग भी नहीं देखते होंगे शायद जितना आप देख रहे हो रात के 2 बजे. वो ज़रूरत नहीं है, एंड दैट्स वेरी बैड. सेम विद वॉचिंग मूवीज़, नेटफ्लिक्स एंड ऑल. या इट्स अ ग्रेट शो, मेरे से रुका ही नहीं जा रहा था, बट अगर आप 3 बजे तक एक शो देख रहे हो और स्लीप कम कर रहे हो, you are literally harming your own health. You know, I don't think any show is worth harming your own health, right? Number 7 is exercise. Exercise is important. Exercise, of course, improves your sleep quality generally. जो लोग exercise करते हैं, they sleep better. लेकिन रात को exercise right before bed obviously can cause your brain and body to be too stimulated, and then you will not be able to relax so easily, right? So you have to do the exercise ideally in the morning only, right? Don't exercise or do heavy activity right before bed. That's not very good, right? Number 8 is your bedroom environment. You know, bedroom आपका जो है dark होना चाहिए, cool होना चाहिए और quiet होना चाहिए. I know it's simple things, but it's funny how difficult it is. Quiet in India is very difficult. Lot of people live in area जहाँ पैं 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 ऑटो की आवाज़ें ये वो आते ही रहती हैं, and therefore it will cause bad sleep, right? So what do? I don't know, get good earplugs, I guess, और क्या कह सकता हूँ, or move to another room or another house if you can. But if you can't, then yeah, at least get some earplugs. Cool, you know, like if it's very hot, it's hard to sleep. It doesn't need to be freezing cold, but it needs to be a little bit cold. If you can get air conditioning, it's obviously better. And it needs to be dark, you know, and in dark is also difficult in India sometimes. पता नहीं कहीं ना कहीं से light, something or the other is keeps coming. So you get good eye masks. You just go to online. I'm not promoting any particular company. You get good ones, the comfortable ones, you know, the ones which are a little like light and then cover your eyes properly, give you full cover. I find them very helpful, especially in flights and all. I find sometimes when I have to sleep and it cannot be dark there. So I use eye masks. So those are very good. But your bedroom environment, cool, quiet and dark, is going to make a huge difference to your sleep as well. And number 9 is pre-sleep wind down ritual. You know, like they you just a little bit of reading books. 10 minutes of reading will have big effect on your sleep. That some people say, you know, not electronic, like actual books, no screen, some prayer, some breathing, some meditation, just reflection, journaling, something away from technology, away from interacting with people, staying with your own thoughts, because आप अपने अंदर जा रहे हो. धीरे धीरे जब आप सो जाते हो तो आप बिल्कुल ही बाहर की अवेयरनेस भूल जाते हो. बट टू गेट टू दैट इट्स बेटर यू स्टार्ट कंटेनिंग टू योर सेल्फ. मतलब दुनियादारी बहुत कर ली, आज के लिए कर ली, अब सोने का टाइम आ रहा है. सो गो इन साइड यू, एनीथिंग दैट हेल्प्स यू गो इन साइड यू, यू नो, मेक्स यू बी प्रेजेंट जस्ट इन द एरिया अराउंड यू और विद इन यू, राइट? मेडिटेशन से लेके रीडिंग से लेके just not overstimulating your brain and thinking about what's happening there, what's happening in the world, what is happening in politics, what's happening to my relative, my this. Not the time to do it if you want to sleep well. So calm the mind before bed. Don't, you know, all these worries and things like that which keep us up at night, it's not going to help. You have to tell yourself, if I don't sleep properly, I will not be able to fight this world. तो चिंताएं हैं, problems हैं, लेकिन if I want to have the best shot of winning, then I have to, stay calm and sleep properly. If you don't sleep properly, uh, and just start thinking about the worries, it's not going to help, because a sleep deprived you is going to perform lower in all tasks, scientifically tested, right? So it's not good. Sometimes you I think I would also say, add to this, I've been given these top things, but uh, reduce your alcohol. Alcohol is not good for sleep. A lot of people think people drink alcohol and say मुझे नींद आ जाती है उससे. It's not good sleep. It's a sedative. It's not going to give you, it makes you get to sleep early, but it doesn't give you good stages of sleep. REM sleep, deep sleep, जो हमने discuss किया, बहुत ज़रूरी है. Alcohol destroys that. So that's not good. I have seen it. I sometimes go with friends, and if I do drink, I drink very less now. But if I do drink, my sleep quality is very bad. We'll talk about that a little bit on Wearables, right? So that's the way you get good sleep. Now, I also want to tell you कि कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि रात को अच्छे से नींद नहीं आती, right? You're looking at the clock at 2 a.m. wide awake, नींद नहीं आ रही, and you're like, oh my god, मुझे 6 बजे उठना है, अब मेरा क्या, कल मेरा दिन कैसा बीतेगा, मैं इतना थका रहूँगा, इट्स माई हेल्थ इज़ रूइनिंग, व्हाट इज़ रॉन्ग विद मी. इतना आपके इतनी एंग्जाइटी आ जाएगी कि स्लीप ना आने की एंग्जाइटी की वजह से स्लीप नहीं आ रही. यू नो, इट हैपन्स अ लॉट टू पीपल, एंड दैट इज़ नॉट ईजी. एंड ऑल आई वुड से टू दैट इज़, उसके भी डील करने के टेक्निक्स हैं. फर्स्टली, it's okay if you don't have a good night of sleep. It's okay. Even with my best efforts, I feel very lucky if I get sleep 80% of the time. मतलब महीने में 6 दिन मेरे को अच्छी नींद नहीं आती अभी भी, with all the protocols I follow, right? And if I get it 24 days, I'm very very happy person. And that's what the biggest sleep scientists also say, कि 80% आ रही है तो that means you're very good with your sleep. So your body will adjust. एक दिन से नहीं होगा कि you will have mortality risk increase या एक दिन से you will have disease, diabetes. But chronic sleep deprivation is the problem. One night is okay. Secondly, घड़ी देखना बंद करो कि 2 बज गए, 3 बज गए, 4 बज गए, जो है सो है, right? If it is not coming, निकल जाओ बेड से. 20-30 मिनट से आप कोशिश कर रहे हो, नींद नहीं आ रही, बाहर निकल जाओ, रीड अ बुक, go out to the other room and lie down a bit over there, read a book. Maybe the sleep will come then, maybe it doesn't come, whatever. You say, nahi aayi, I'll function less tomorrow, but I'll still function and I'll get back to my cycle. Don't see news, email, social media, anything that over stimulates the brain. Then do slower inhale, longer exhale. Do this anyway. Even regular nights maybe it's a good thing to get to sleep. जब भी आप अपने exhales पे focus करते हो, it makes the body relax and gets you into the sleep zone faster. What does this mean? You inhale for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale किया and slowly exhale. 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4 in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out. You don't have to count. I'm just saying it out loud to show you, but in your mind only you can count, and just breathe in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 7 seconds. Do this many times. When you can't get sleep or when you're trying to get to sleep, this often is, people say ki it's helpful, right? Next day, take a little nap if that helps, but not very long nap, and things like that. If it's happening for very long time, maybe meet a doctor, try to follow the sleep protocols I told you. It will help. My final part of this podcast is again something some people say कि यार यही बता दो हमें, बाकी जो सारी कहानी डाली है स्लीप की या जो हमें खुद करना है. Tell me about supplements. Tell me about supplements and variables. Tell me मैं कौन सी गोली खाऊं जिससे मेरी नींद ठीक हो जाए, right? And that is not the intention of this podcast. The intention of this podcast is to give you full knowledge, full awareness, try to find ways naturally to improve your sleep and do it with the understanding of sleep. अगर आपने वो सब कर लिया है and still you want to know about supplements, then I'm very happy to tell you about the few key supplements that seem to be working quite well with sleep. But like I said, they are secondary to habits. अगर आपका लाइट ठीक से नहीं आप कंट्रोल कर रहे, आप रात के 3 बजे तक जाग रहे हो, आप स्ट्रेस ले रहे हो, you're not following your circadian rhythm, then these supplements are not going to do that much difference. They are only there to help when you have good habits. But let me tell you some of the most common supplements used for sleep. One is magnesium glycinate, which is very popular. Magnesium is supposed to help improve your quality of sleep. मतलब you get more REM sleep, more deep sleep and relaxation. 200 to 400 mg of magnesium glycinate. I'm not recommending it. Better you check with a doctor or something. But these are things you can research further from this podcast. I am not a supplements podcast in that way. Second thing is melatonin. 0.5 to 3 mg. Melatonin हर जगह मिल रही है आजकल. But remember that you don't need a lot. Even 3 mg is a lot, right? So you get 5 mg tablets, 10 mg tablets, too much. Half mg, 3 mg is also enough, and it's for short term. It's good when you have jet lag, you are traveling, neend nahi aa rahi, and your time zone has changed, but not as a regular thing. It's not good. Ashwagandha, which is its scientific name is Videnia somnifera. It's a herb. It's a very common Indian herb. 300 to 600 mg की dose के capsule मिलते हैं. Apparently, it helps reduce stress and cortisol. I have taken ashwagandha in the past. These days, I'm not taking it. When I did take it, I think it helps you like relax a little bit more. And L-theanine is another one which comes from tea, 100 to 200 mg, promotes relaxation. But I think it's always better you consult a doctor before you do any of these supplementations. But these are some of the supplementations that are there on sleep. And then wearables. Okay. Wearables का क्या है कि आजकल बहुत आ गया है. There's a lot of devices. I am wearing one. This is a sleep ring. It's not a sleep ring. It's like a fitness ring, they call it. You can actually, it measures fitness also. But I use this to track my sleep. I'm not going to take the name of the brand because I'm not getting paid for it, or I'm not pushing any brand. But just to let you know, I wore it. I also wear a fitness watch. But this I remove at night. So because I find it a little heavy and difficult and distracting. It has a screen on it. So if at night I want to avoid seeing any screen, or I want to avoid seeing the time, I don't want to keep wearing this, even though it does track sleep if I keep wearing it. This one I like it. You charge it once in 10 days, and it has an app on my phone which gives me some sleep data on how many hours I slept, how much was deep sleep, how much was REM sleep. Is it helpful? Yeah, I find it a little bit helpful. Can it be also stressful? Yes. Because sometimes I'll wake up fresh, but it will tell me कि you have not slept properly. Now I suddenly psychologically start feeling कि भैया क्या गलत हो गया. So you take it with a pinch of salt. What is important, what is good in this is the trend. If I see that I have made an effort and I'm now, it says that you are sleeping 20 minutes more than what average than you did last week or half an hour more, then I can see, okay, I'm making some progress. So it can be useful. You can think about it if you want to track your sleep. These are very cheap now. You get many brands. Some are expensive, some are cheap, some have subscriptions. Again, do your own research and you can try it out. That's really the way. So what all did we discuss today? Right? We discussed sleep, the most important thing for improving your life, the most important thing if you want to die later, right, than other people. I cannot prevent you from dying. We're all going to die one day. Aim in life for the whole health fitness industry, I think, is to improve longevity, which basically just means die later, right? There's no such thing as living forever. So you just die later. And sleep is one of the biggest things. We understood what is sleep, what all happens when we sleep at night, what are the kinds of sleep: deep sleep, REM sleep, what is the cleaning that happens in sleep. We went through a lot of studies, scientific studies, which talked about ki when people don't sleep, they don't perform cerebral brain tasks well, they don't perform motor tasks well, they have a higher chance of dying, they have a higher chance of diabetes, heart disease risk. And we then went into all our ancient Ayurveda, which talked about the importance of sleep, one key pillar of life. We went into how to have a good system of good sleep, whether it's watching the circadian rhythm, sleeping on time, not too late, waking up early. We talked about how to control your bedroom. We talked about some supplements, and we talked about a little bit about wearables. It's a lot of talking if you think about it, right? And honestly, it's such a deep subject, sleep, that you can go on and on. And I understand, these days in YouTube, the podcasts are about like clever content and pranks and fun and jump cuts. I just felt ki the world needs knowledge and put in a very simple way. Some of the things I've said today are very technical, but I try to make it simple. So I know I'm not looking like a full scientist, but I think it's needed to for people to understand. If you benefited from this, please give us a shout out in the comments below. Please share with your friends. Also, if this is our first episode, we are trying to get better. So please give us your feedback. What all should we cover? How should we cover it? I do want to make it about science. I do want to make it about knowledge, ancient knowledge. So it will be a content heavy podcast. It will not only have fun stuff, which I have done in my books and movies, as you know, but it is a genuinely, I'm making a library of content which is basically Indians need very badly, because we do sometimes talk about science, but we don't fully understand it. We do talk about ancient wisdom, but we don't fully understand it. We definitely don't merge it as much as we should. And I think we don't do simple things that can improve our health tremendously. So the simplest one is to improve your sleep. Thank you for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, whatever. I don't know if people say that even on YouTube. I'm coming to YouTube after a long time, and I didn't want to come until I had something new to offer. And this is something new, and this is something I am deeply passionate about. I want my fellow Indians to live longer, healthier, happier, become more successful. I want you all guys to die later. Thank you for watching. Take care.